Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel. Welcome to week 6's GT Sport Daily Race and Strategy Guide. Week 6 is taking us to Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona, and we're taking the Group 4 machinery around this famous Spanish circuit. 10 laps to get round, tyre wear at times 2, fuel at times 1, just the racing hard tyres available, and the most important information in this one, obviously highlighted there in red, is there is a mandatory pit stop. You must make a pit stop. BOP is on, damage is off, it's a rolling start, and slipstream is real. And yeah, this is actually a fresh combo. Group 4 around Catalonia has never been a daily race C, certainly since I have been doing the YouTube. So I think this is a nice combo. I've said several times I can't believe it hasn't been a combo, and it is finally here. So first off, let's take a look at the pit loss and fuel. Now the first thing I want to highlight, when you come into the pit lane there, that green AstroTurf on the right hand side, if you put all 4 wheels on there, I believe you get a half-second penalty or a 1-second penalty. I never actually got a chance to test it myself, but don't risk it because I'm pretty sure that is actually a thing, and really, it's a silly penalty to pick up in the end. Now the reason I'm gabbling on for so long and telling you that is because the pit loss, as you can see, is incredibly long. It takes nearly 30 seconds from entering the pit lane to actually getting the car into the box. Now the main picture there is going to be a pit stop where we don't change tyres, and the inset picture is a pit stop where we do change tyres, and you're going to see why you do not want to be changing tyres in this one. Tyre wear is only at times 2, and a tyre change will actually cost you 2.9 seconds, which you will never make back up in clean air anyway with the fresh tyres, so it's just not worth it. I cannot highlight it enough. Do not change tyres, do not change tyres, do not change tyres. Overall, your pit loss is going to be 27 seconds. Fuel's no issue either whatsoever. I don't know why we've only got fuel at times 1, but yeah, that's the settings for this one. But yeah, hopefully I've managed to reiterate that enough. Do not change tyres. So next thing on the agenda is, when is it best to actually pit? Now this is essentially an impossible question to answer. Every race works out different, different circumstances, different instance, etc. What you can do is go into the race with a kind of rough idea about when you're going to pit based on where you're starting the race. Now if I was starting towards the front of the grid, my general experience of that is the front of the race is a little bit more sane, there's less fighting, and you can tend to be able to run kind of representative laps close to what you know you're capable of doing. If that's the case, then of course you're just going to leave that pit stop till as late as possible in the race, or until a circumstance arises like some fight in front of you where you think maybe now you're losing a little bit too much time. You're probably better off trying to get into the pits and find a little bit of clean air. But yeah, if you don't have to pit and you're at the front of the race, then I would be leaving it as late as absolutely possible before I make that pit stop. But again, as I said, it's not going to be a standalone rule that's going to work in every single race, because every race works out a little bit different. It's a little bit more simple if you're starting towards the back of the grid. Essentially, you're probably more likely to get caught up in some fighting here. There's likely to be a bigger disparity between the pace of the cars as well, and people get a little bit more desperate towards the back of the grid to make up position. So if you find yourself getting embroiled in fights and battles in the early stages of the race, then I would always be looking to make that pit stop nice and early. On the other hand though, you could find that a lot of people have the same idea, and therefore a lot of people towards the back of the grid will all pit at the end of lap 1, and all of a sudden the track opens up to you, so that's definitely another thing to keep in mind as well. In the mid-pack, it's really just all about race circumstances. If you feel you're getting held up by 2 seconds a lap, you've got nothing to lose but to go into those pits and try and find a little bit of clean air, because you should not be lapping at that kind of pace. So in the mid-pack, it's really just all about race circumstances. But that's the strategy for this one. There's not really a lot more to go over with it. The only other thing I'm going to cover in this, well, there is actually several more things, but we're going to take a look at some different cars and how they felt round the track and give you a rough idea about what might actually be competitive this week. And the car we chose to do the race run, we actually did a race run in a couple of cars, but the first car we've got here is the Ferrari 458 Italia. Now this is probably my favourite Group 4 car, so it's my kind of go-to Group 4 car, and to be honest with you, it feels very, very nice around here. This will also give us an idea of what that tyre wear is going to be like, and you're going to see why I've said right at the beginning of the video, do not change those tyres, because we're on lap 10 here. You can see the tyre wear down in the bottom right hand corner. We're going to zoom in on that just a little bit of a second, but yeah, the Ferrari is very nice. MR cars, good handling cars. There's a lot of handling required here, and there's a decent straight as well. The Ferrari, no slouch on the straight, so it's a well balanced car for the sort of track layout. Zooming in on that tyre wear, you can see tyre wear is pretty much negligible. Tyre wear only been at ×2, racing hard tyres, no surprises there whatsoever. So yeah, there's no point changing the tyres, and hopefully that has demonstrated that absolutely ably. 19 minutes 38.8 was our finishing time in the Ferrari, so decent length of the race C this time. Next up though, we checked out the Volkswagen Scirocco. So whenever we have a Group 4 race, there's just generally this fear amongst the community that the FF cars are going to dominate. Now I think I'm able to report some pretty good news here if you're not a fan of the FF cars, because they seem incredibly uncompetitive around here. Certainly in my hands now, I'm by no means the best FF driver anyway, but I was quite shocked to find that I was struggling to get within a second of my best Ferrari lap times in the Scirocco. I do remember Tidgney always saying that the FFs with tyre wear and hard tyres do tend to struggle a lot more, particularly in kind of more twisty tracks. But yeah, even at that, and the fact that I'm not a brilliant FF driver anyway, I was quite surprised that we were so far off the pace, to the extent that I thought maybe I'd set something up wrong in the Ferrari. So I actually back out the Ferrari actually in an online lobby with the correct settings, and well yeah, the Ferrari was just actually a second a lap quicker than the Scirocco in my hands. And you will notice that the tyre wear starts to come in a little bit more for the FF cars as well, so hopefully some good news if you're not an FF car fan. They do not seem particularly competitive, and we'll take a look at another FF car in just a moment as well to try and kind of even confirm that information. But we were actually 9 seconds slower than the Ferrari over the full race distance in the Scirocco, which is a lot. Next up we've got the Mitsubishi EVO from Group 4. I did want to test the WRX, but I did actually have one in my garage, but the EVO is pretty much the same car, and whenever the WRX is the sort of strongest car, I always tend to find myself a little bit quicker in the EVO anyway, and the EVO definitely looks pretty competitive at this combination. We literally just jumped in the car here, did a 54.3, then a 54.2, but the optimal down there you can see is a 53.6, so definitely on par with the Ferrari was the Mitsubishi EVO. Obviously I haven't done the full race run here, but you can see even after 4 laps or 3 laps that the tyre wear is pretty negligible. I wouldn't imagine the tyre wear will be too much of a problem, but a very, very stable car, the EVO, and there was just no drama with it whatsoever. Next up we've got the Toyota 886 from Group 4, brake balance at +2 for the Toyota. Now the 86 is a very, very good handling car, and from the kind of like the best handling cars out of the 86, the Alfa Romeo and the Trophy, the 86 has better top end, so there's a long straight here at Catalunya, so I think it'll probably be slightly better suited than the other 2 cars that we mentioned. But an absolute weapon round here, I have to say. Again, just like the EVO, we literally just jumped into this car, did a couple of laps, and easily went the fastest we have done of any of the cars. Well, not easily, just a tenth quicker than what we did in the Ferrari, but a 53.9 straight out the box. The cornering speed of that car was just insane, to be honest with you, and I think the 86 will probably be the car of choice this week. And just to confirm that kind of FF information that I had from the Scirocco, we jumped into the Renault Megane Gr4, and again it kind of confirmed what I had to say about the Scirocco. A 54.7 to start off with, and then we did a 55.5. It didn't feel particularly bad either, but one thing to note was that optimal down there was a 54.1, so I don't know if maybe the FFs are just really good over that opening lap. Obviously the first lap was done out the pits, but yeah, everything I'm seeing is saying the FF cars are not the way to go in this one. It looks like something like the EVO, the WRX and the Toyota 86 and possibly the Ferrari and McLaren are the cars for this week. Now one thing I do want to touch on here, it's a wee while since I've done a few laps around Catalonia, but by God, the track limit penalties are a lot worse than I ever remember them being. Just going slightly wide on any corner, and even if your tyres are still on the curb, it was picking me up a lot of penalties, so definitely something to keep in mind. But anywhere you run wide, we picked up a 1.5 second penalty into turn 1 there, and I've watched it back a few times, and I think maybe we crossed all 4 lines over the white line, but yeah, 1.5 second penalty was pretty harsh, that's for sure. But yeah, we ran into problems time and time again with the track limits here, and that's going to be, I think that's something you're going to hear a lot of people complain about this week on streams, is those track limit penalties, because they did seem particularly harsh. But yeah, just take special care with the track limit penalties, because track limit penalties ruin races. So we've reached that part of the video where we just reiterate everything that we've learned so far. So yeah, this one's all based around that mandatory pit stop that I've highlighted in red there. Do not change the tyres. The tyre wear is so incredibly low, you're just basically wasting 3 seconds that you don't need to. I don't think anyone's going to have any issues with the tyre wear in this one, and I can't really see any car having a particular issue either. But yeah, everyone's required to make that pit stop, so yeah, a lot of this one comes down to the timing of that pit stop and whether you kind of time it right, and it's a hard one to judge, to be perfectly honest with you. As I kind of reiterated or touched on earlier on, if I'm starting near the front, I'm looking to leave that pit stop until it's absolutely as late as possible. Just let the race spread out, and therefore I'm less likely to pit into traffic. But again, that doesn't mean that, you know, that you're going to use that strategy all the time. You never know what's going to happen towards the front of the race. You know, the top 4 could end up fighting like cats and dogs. You're involved in it, you're going super slow, and everybody starts pitting behind you, and you get undercut by a lot of folks. So in terms of the recommendations of when to pit again, I can't just say it enough. It's all about your start position, and it's all about how your race is unfolding and kind of reading the race, you know. It's a good one for trying to learn how to read a race and how it's unfolding. Starting towards the back, I'd definitely be considering that early stop, but as I said earlier, if everybody around you does the same, then maybe you're better off staying out and you end up with a nice open track that way. And from the mid-pack, it all depends on that traffic. But I think most important of all in this one is to take special care to avoid those track limits penalties, because it's going to be a close race. When the tyre wear is so low as that, these races become very, very close, so half-second penalties are going to play a crucial part. End up dropping behind a couple of cars just with a half-second penalty, and then you're going to see your race going south backwards quicker than Nikita Mazepin. But yeah, let's finish off the guide here with a lap in the Toyota 86. This is the car we did the fastest lap in. It was a 1:53.9. Brake balance at +2 for this one. I'm not sure how that will transpire over the course of a race, but definitely allowed this car to feel very nice. But we're on the start-finish straight here, down towards turn number 1. Your brake marker for turn number 1 is the black box on the left-hand side. You'll see it on the wall, and yeah, pretty much any car for Catalunya, that is a good brake marker. Sacrifice a little bit of your entry speed to make sure you get a better line through turns 2 and 3. And as you come through turn 3, you're looking for that yellow marker on the left hand wall there. Now you should be on the throttle before that. Don't run wide, you'll pick up a really silly half-second penalty and dirty tyres. And you're looking to get as close to that shadow as from the gantry above as possible. You won't get quite there. I take a tight line into turn number, I think that's 4, as it's allows you to get on the throttle a little bit earlier. Very hard to find a braking reference for turn number 5. There is a green kind of box on the outside of the track to the right that I use. End or the start of the curb here for this tricky chicane. Do make sure you overslow the car a little bit for this, but it's very easy to get on the throttle, go wide there and pick up a half-second penalty. But probably the most difficult corner on the track. Just come off the power at the end of the curb on the left-hand side to throw it into the fast right-hander there. And you're looking for the black box on the right hand side wall there. You'll see the grey pole. I actually use that as my reference. Get the car nice and slowed down. That corner is much tighter than you might think, and we're coming here to a long radius right hand corner. Hug the curb, try and use that curb to bring the car around a little bit. It's hard to tell when to go on the throttle, and you're looking for the tyre marks on the curb there. That's usually a good reference point for that right hander, and the gantry is pretty good for the chicane. Once to the curbs, I can see we actually had a little bit of a moment on the curbs there, so this lap could have been quicker, and you should be full throttle through the last corner. But that's a lap of Circuit de Catalunya in the Toyota 86. This is my prediction for the car of the week, but that's not something I've ever been very good at, but definitely seemed like a little bit of a weapon round here. Interesting enough race in my opinion. I quite like the mandatory pit stops. I kind of get what they're trying to do in this one, I think, with it. You know, they're trying to kind of make every car kind of competitive, and then just give you a kind of get a jail free card to try and avoid the traffic, and kind of, you know, give the race a strategy in that way. So I think it's quite an interesting way of doing it. I'm looking forward to it. I may well try something a little bit different with the streaming in this one, but I'm not going to commit myself to that. But do join me for some streams this week if you can. We shall be using some different cars, having some fun. We'll do some races from the front if I can qualify well enough, and we'll do some races from the back as well. But yeah, hopefully the guide has been useful in some way, shape or form. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if it has been, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.